asking for your blessings upon this land and its people. May peace and understanding flow through our communities, uniting us across our differences and reminding us of the strength we share together. Guide our leaders with wisdom, integrity, and compassion, so they may serve with justice and humility. Help us too to embrace kindness and respect in our daily lives, to care for one another, and to lift up those in need. May we build a future rooted in love, hope, and the values that honor each and every life. Let it be so, and so it is.
Hello, my name's Ron Vroman. I'm the old white man talking head for the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. I have a thing to say and I have something to read. First of all, this is about de facto and de jure. This is about we, all of us, coming together as a de jure provisional government on whatever state you're on, and going against the de facto on whatever state they're on, and removing them as you come upon them. This is how it works. The de facto cannot stand to the de jure when the de jure returns. And we've all seen it all over the place. They do everything they can not to come in contact with us, because when it happens, then they are done. And it's obvious. And it's the transition between de facto and de jure. When the de facto can no longer stand, you get another de facto. And when that de facto can no longer stand, you get another de facto. And that's how it's been since March 1861. And what they're trying to bring down on us now is another de facto. They're going to switch stuff around and keep everything the same. It's the same bird, different wings, de facto. The only de jure comes from Article 1, Section 1, when we form a social compact. Now, this, I forgot to use this prop the other day and I want to. The National Ensign, 3 years, 11 months, and 28 days in the United States Navy, 1956 to 1960. I was under that flag. And I knew that I was under the UCMJ and I no longer had a constitution because I gave it up to defend it. I actually enlisted. So I thought I was in the de jure United States Navy, and I was in the de facto United States Navy. They transferred me to a reserve fighter squadron that never existed, and I never knew I was in it. And I was in it until Anna von Wright says, Ron, you're probably not discharged. And oh, yeah. So I researched it. Took 3 years. And she was right. I had not been discharged. I had been in an inactive reserve squadron. I was still in the Navy. I just didn't know it. De facto. I got a discharge letter from the United States Navy. Finally. It's all a lie. So, what we're dealing with is actually another de facto instead of a de jure. A guy called me up. No, wrong. I got an email from a man on Oregon, and I called him back, and he informed me that he had been appointed the interim governor for the state of Oregon. He has another de facto that he's offering. This one seems to be coming from RUSA, the Republic, Tim Turner, that bunch. It's another de facto. To arrive at de jure, you have to do Article 1, Section 1. If you don't do that, you do not become a provisional government and you are another de facto. Nobody can give you de jure but the people, and you don't have them. You may have had them at one time. It's bullshit. You failed. It has nothing to do with what was. We're talking about what is. We got today word that SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, which is for what's left of that 10-mile square, SCOTUS, that outfit, said that in effect, Trump had been cheated out of his second term and he was still the president. Although all of that de facto crap happened, it was just another, excuse me, it was just another de facto happening to another de facto, had nothing to do with people. It's all about he who can be deceived, let him. They are in it for their own wealth on our back. Donald John Trump did not draw a wage. That's critical. That's important. We know by Accardi and Clearfield that if you're in their pay working for the corporation for $1, you are not serving the people. But he didn't take a buck, not one. That stands well for him. But he does a lot of other shit. He's a very pragmatic man. But he is just the CEO of another de facto. There's been a string of them since 1861. The last president was Buchanan. The last constitution was March 1861. We have had color law since then. It got really bad after Grant and Lee signed their armistice. It's been Lieber Code, martial law all the way, except on Oregon. Oregon did the paperwork, did the physical work, implemented ex parte Milligan, and became an Article 3, Amendment 7 common law civilian court of record. Bingo, did the work. Nobody else has done the work. They're all doing play pretend. It's just like getting license plates issued to you or making your own. I did the making your own variety and took that sucker all the way to court and did 20 days in county. De facto, you cannot win in their court and they have no authority over you. However, if they take you out of your car and put you in cuffs and throw your ass in jail after they strip search you, Michelle, I'm sorry for that, detestable people. And they're working for the sheriff's department that has no oath. But I digress. We're talking about a man that thinks he has been appointed the interim governor for the state of Oregon, which is another de facto, slightly different from the oligarchy currently serving in Salem. And they think that they can remanufacture all of those titles and places. It's ridiculous. There's a de facto government there and it's running. They're paying their bills, they're writing the checks, although we could never find out who was actually paying Kate, Ron, Jeff, or Suzanne. And I mean, we spent hours on that. Couldn't find anybody anywhere that would say, yes, we're the ones that write the check. Nobody would say that. No place to go to stop payment. De facto, they do what they want to do. They're in charge. They're illegal and illegitimate. And this guy that claims to be the interim, have you looked up the difference between interim and provisional? Have you looked up the difference between de facto and de jure? There's a large difference. To get to de jure, I only know of one way, and that's through Article 1, Section 1, then Article 3, Amendment 7, to arrive at Article 4, Section 4. But we are guaranteed. You are not guaranteed it unless you can take it. And you take it by going and looking them in the eye and defying them to stand against you. We found a guy last Thursday with one backup that stood with us in a very wide hall. There was 5 of us, our court with the marshal, and him and his number 2. And I think it was 45 minutes of communication. We just maybe might have somebody in the Army that might have a general that could possibly take a proper oath to the proper Constitution with the laws of nature and nature's God included. That's in the possibilities. That's within the realm. De facto and de jure. Where's your oath? You take a proper oath and do it all the way through with honor. You got de jure. If you try and rig something along the way, such as a central location under whatever pretenses, appointing somebody interim anything on another state. Take care of your own state until you have one of the several states that can meet with Oregon in a Congress assembled. You got to do the work. The only way you get from de facto to de jure is doing the work. This is what I did today. And it wasn't me doing it by myself. What it was our court meeting and doing the work of the provisional government. Not talking about it, but actually doing it. Notice and demand caveat to will from the Article 1, Section 1, de jure provisional government on Oregon. This is addressed to Christopher Julka, civilian, United States Navy attorney. I've known him for years, talked to him many times, sending me emails all the time. The next one is Mark Romano, SES, U.S. Marine Corps. He's counsel to the Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Eric Smith. Then the next one is Craig D. Jensen, civilian, United States Navy attorney. Laura J. Pleasant, civilian, United States Navy attorney. Now, those people all have oaths to a bar association, such as the Oregon State Bar, a member of the British Accreditation Registry. They are officers of their court. Any court where they appear, they give jurisdiction to that court. They never do demand jurisdiction from a court. You have to be sui juris to do that. I digress. The next one is Rocky G. Kumlin, military.army.mil, and Scott D. Peel, NFG, army.mil. On the record, U.S. Marine Corps. Third Mall Media, U.S. Marine Corps. Eric M. Smith, Commandant, U.S. Marine Corps. John Naughton, he was the highest ranking Marine on Oregon. I have not talked to his replacement. Michael Borgschulte, I think he's been promoted. He was third MAW aviation, like me. Then we have Leonard F. Anderson, General, down in Louisiana. He was the commander of John Naughton. I think it's quite complicated. Then we have Ellen Rosenblum, DOJ, state.or.us. Then we have Casey Cotting, Oregon State Police, Oregon. Then we have Julie at the Oregon Sheriff's Association, and we have Tim at the Oregon Sheriff's Association, and we have Cheryl Myers, Deputy Secretary of State for Oregon, the state of Oregon, although her email says sos.oregon.gov. It doesn't say .or.us.oregon. At least it doesn't say .com. Then we have Charlie White, Director of the Provisional Government on Oregon, William Appel, Cynthia Palmatier, Brandon Wingeter, Laura Runyon, Sam Shadow, Tony Devine, Thomas Sinisel, Bobby Graves, the Republic of the United States.org. John Liberty, John Darash, National Liberty Alliance, Destry at Yahoo. R.D. Mitchell, Roger Dowdell, Rod Class, Maryland on Minnesota, Phyllis, Sandy, Eric Dover, Dave Roberts, Ammon Bundy, Brian Bundy, Cliven Bundy, People's Rights, James Rogoski. James went to the trouble to establish a Jural Assembly on Tennessee, I believe it was. It didn't hold together real good, but he made the good effort. And Michael School. The text is, take heed. Notice to the agent is notice to the principal. Notice to the principal is notice to the agent. The de facto governance, such as, the state of Oregon, aka all cap state of Oregon, are a subdivision of the United States of Washington, District of Columbia, Inc., with forts, ports, armories, and needful buildings. in some form, operated by an industrial, military, executive, legislative, judicial, administrative banker, Federal Reserve Note, British Accreditation Registry, Nazi, Jesuit, Kazarian, jihadist, communist, UN, Big Pharma, medical, de facto, color of law, RICO society that should not be. So we took them out on Oregon, November 2022. Excuse me. From 1775 and the creation of the United States Marine Corps to the unanimous declaration of 13 United States of America, 1776, small u. Read the opening paragraph again. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to, one, dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and two, assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should, three, declare the cause which impel them to the separation, 1776. Then 1777, our Confederation and Perpetual Unions, apostrophe S, articles styled the United States of America's apostrophe as Constitution 1859, comma, Oregon's apostrophe as Constitution 1859, www.orsja.org. A small aside, they make a big difference on Constitution of and Constitution for. And they look at a document that has no authority and no provenance and try to hang an argument for de jure on make believe. The Constitution went out as an article from the Articles of Confederation to 13 states. 12 came back. With those 12, they made a president, their first one, Washington. That's the Constitution. That one. It went out and it came back ratified by 12. It had no preamble. That was attached. That's more play pretend. All of that. It doesn't make any difference. It's another de facto. It's not Constitution for, it's not Constitution of, it's the United States of America's apostrophe S, possession. They own it, they did it. It's their Constitution. And they made it to be changed and ratified and worked with. And they did many times. They hadn't finished it 5 minutes before they were working on fixing it. It's a process. The process stopped with Oregon in 1859. That's when it stopped. That's original jurisdiction. Nobody can go to that fictionary, imaginary place and decree anything such as, we're going to give you the interim governorship of whatever state. Doesn't exist. It's another de facto. It works the other way. So, the way that it works is Article 1, Section 1. People that know it, Richard has it memorized. We declare that all men, when they form a social compact, are equal and right, that all power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness, and they have at all times the right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in any manner as they may think proper. Pretty clear. Every state of the 33 states has to implement Article 1, Section 1 and make themselves a provisional government because the one they have now is unconstitutional, it's de facto, it's illegitimate, and it's there. You don't make another one to replace it. Sheriffs, they're all de facto. How do you get a new sheriff? How do you get a de jure sheriff? We get new ones all the time. They got a little revolving game they play, but they take a de facto oath, and they have since 1910 on Oregon. And we are only doing Oregon. You guys got to do Massachusetts and Minnesota. On Oregon, our sheriff's office must be filled by a man or a woman that has the proper bona fides, which is a proper oath, not a bogus oath, a proper oath. They take a proper oath to the proper Constitution, which is 1859, with the laws of nature and nature's God included, in whatever words they want to use, however they want to get the job done, as long as it fulfills the actual requirements of law. And it has to do that for them to take the seat in the office of sheriff. It's all written down. DTSSP or whatever it is, the County Human Relations Department, they all have all of the things that they have to do to become sheriff. They have to be able to do this and that and run a jail and whatever it is. And some things are required and other things require contracts. He has to make a contract with the court if he provides the bailiffs in the jail. It's complicated. And not one sheriff out of the 36 has the proper oaths to the proper constitutions and all the requirements of the job that they can even show. And we tried them and convicted them, and now we're serving them with the paper. The paper of, you have to take a proper oath or you must leave the office. You're illegal and illegitimate. They cannot stand against us. We posted on their bulletin board. We're not going to accept anything less than de jure. We're not going to go for another de facto coming from someplace else telling us what to do. We already did it. If you are not a member of our Jural Assembly, our jury pool of men and women on the land and soil of Oregon, if you're not with us, then you are with somebody else in the de facto, because we know who we are and we have done all of the paperwork. You have to do it. It's all been acquiesced to hundreds of times over. It's done. And on Tuesday, our court will again go to Marion County and confront them. They have no oath. They have no honor. They have no authority. but they do as long as you will admit that they do. He who can be deceived, let him. I'm sorry, I digress. Article 1, Section 1, Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly, we have the de jure providence in an unbroken chain of sovereignty, without rebuttal on the land and soil jurisdiction of men and women with our progeny, without ruler or subject on Oregon, the 33rd among the several states of the United States of America, the creator of our constitutional Republican form of government. The DOD has trained thousands of men and women on how to kill in urban warfare over the last many 20 years. Then the DOD, with a preponderance of evidence available, brought forth the facts. And they shot us up. Then the DOD recently authorized lethal force against us. Yeah, that's the same outfit that SCOTUS is from. That what's left of the 10-mile square. I deny the authority as color of law de facto governance on Oregon. We have implemented ex parte Milligan. Cease and desist. We have implemented it. In 2018, signed, sealed, stamped, witness, proof of service, published at www.orsja.org on 3 cable TV channels, YouTube, and Brighteon. This information will be presented to an open court, Article 3, 1 Supreme Court claiming original jurisdiction found in our Amendment 7 Civilian Common Law Court of Record for further consideration by our grand jury. Then a true bill. It will be tried by our jury, whose verdict has no appeal in fact. I completed the video. This is take 2. And it will be published soon. The goal is remedy, a return to a constitutional Republican form of government this year, 2024. The demand, self-correct with a proper oath to the proper constitution, with the laws of nature and nature's God included. Then I sign this with living testimony in the form of an affidavit of truth, and I identify myself and I say a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be said, but I don't need to read. Then I state with full faith and credit what governing law is established here. They can't say, oh, I didn't know. You know, you can't, because it says right here, governing law is the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. And blah, 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 and the McCarran-Walters Act, and judgment, nil hill decet, and Blackstone commentaries. And all of this has been acquiesced to, and it's been defaulted on, but not until you confront them. They can play pretend until they're confronted. They think you're still deceived, and you are if you haven't done the work. And not one of them, National Liberty Alliance, Destry, RD, none of them, including RUSA. You can't get there from here. You got to do it yourself on your own state. You got to do Article 1, Section 1. And if you don't get there. And Oregon can't get there until 20 other states, and it's got to include South Carolina, meet and Congress assembled. That should be done by the Electoral College. That's how the president is elected. He is selected by the Electoral College. And who controls the Electoral College? The people on their state. If the people on their state want it to be the state of Washington or the state of Minnesota, and you know how good they are the de facto, and they are in charge, and they are illegal and illegitimate only if you implement Article 1, Section 1. Until then, you are deceived and they can prove it because you haven't done the work. And I yield.
They do not want to let go of this. They do not intend on losing here. And we do not intend giving it back to them.
And then the bullets started flying. Then he jumps out of the car. And he's got both his hands up. And he got out of the car, and he had his hands in the air. He's like, just shoot me then. This is what you want, to shoot me. And they did. They shot him dead. With his hands in the air, and I saw it. I swear to God. He was just walking with his hands in the air. And they shot him. And they shot him dead, and then after he was down on the ground, they shot him 3 more times.